Here with Brian Sakowski, PG. Junior college covers way more than that, but we're on here talking about junior college baseball. And Brian, thanks for jumping on with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, as usual.
Hey, you guys have a huge JUCO tournament getting ready to start. I think this is awesome, but let's dive right into the JUCO tournament you guys have coming up.
Yeah, it actually was not a PG idea. Michael Candler, the former head coach at Gulf Coast State, now the athletic director, he's kind of the guy who wanted to do this, put on this huge event in the Panhandle in Panama City Beach at that gorgeous complex down there. And it was kind of like after it was put together that they went about saying like, hey, would you guys be interested in, covering this, broadcasting it, blowing it up on social media, doing the whole perfect game deal? And obvious yes at that point. So I couldn't have possibly pushed harder for it, but I think even the decision makers were as excited as I was. So that was good. But
hey, what's the format of the tournament? And is it just a round robin?
Yeah, more or less. Yep.
Yeah. How many teams?
It is 16 teams. There's 4 pods of 4. There's 4 fields at the complex. Everybody's going to play a bunch. There'll obviously be a progression of winner's bracket and loser's bracket, but the whole general idea is everybody gets the games. Everybody gets to be seen in front of scouts. College baseball hasn't started yet, so every scout's going to be there. The whole deal. It's going to be really cool on multiple levels.
And you guys just came out with your top 25 team breakdowns.
Yeah, I've toyed around with the idea for years now of trying to do it like Noah Sharp does, or, where we break it down division by division and so on and so forth. But the way I came into it and took it over from guys who'd done it before me was they all lumped it in together. And the more I've done it that way, the more I've liked it doing it that way. I just, so some years LSU Eunice is better than every other D1. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's or same vice versa. Some years Sac City in California is the best team in the country, or take your pick out of Cali. But I think we do a better job of lumping it all in together. We're getting everybody. We're trying to put everybody on the same sort of footing, and just really looking at the teams and performance and the players, and trying our best to come up with who's the best team in the country, not just the best team in a division.
Yeah, and you guys have always been more about the players too, and obviously from a pro standpoint.
But I will give you, because we are coming out with it soon, number 1 this year is Iowa Western. We're sticking in the Midwest with them. Right after them is Sanjak. Noah Sharp had Sanjak at 1. My buddy who does JUCO stuff too, and obviously your listeners know him as well. So we kind of had we do this every year where we'll text each other like, all right, no hints, who's your top 2 or 3 right now heading in, who's my top 2 or 3 heading in, just to see where our heads are at, how we're looking at it. And we both came up with Sanjak and Iowa Western as our top 2. And so he'd kind of said like, hey, ours is going to go first, and we're going to go with Sanjak. And I was like, all right, dope. I'll do Iowa Western. This is cool. Because it kind of makes the decision for us at that point. When you're down to 2 or 3, you're really thinking about. But
what else are you seeing out there as far as starting the season? Any transfers? I haven't seen as much. Usually this is a flurry of guys leaving 4-year schools to go back. I haven't seen as much of that with guys filling rosters at the break.
Yeah, there really wasn't that much. I expected there to be, this time last year, I knew there probably wouldn't be. But this time this year, I figured with D1 still having bigger rosters in the fall and then having to cut down, even not to what it used to, but still having to cut down some, I assumed we'd see more of an exodus to JUCO. But you see a lot of guys who are 3rd or 4th year guys, but they still technically have JUCO eligibility that went back to JUCO. They spent 1 semester at a 4-year or whatever. There's some notable names in that sense. Northwest Florida State got Austin Kelly back, their catcher. Cali got Jansen Reeder back, who was going to start in the outfield at Wichita State. There's any number of those guys. But no, there wasn't a big oh, okay, now we have the number 1 JUCO prospect in the country because he transferred from blank to blank. That didn't happen. So it's more of a teams kind of supplemented what they had as far as rosters, like 1-2 pieces at a time, nothing big, no major team makeovers. A lot of coaches were just, and I've been on the phone with 100 of them in the last couple of weeks. A lot of coaches were just hey, we liked our club. Maybe we wanted to add one arm. Maybe we wanted to add a little more left-handed bat insurance or something. But we liked our club in the fall, and we're rolling with them.
Talking to some of the Division One coaches, it seems like the Midwest has some prospects this year. Any names to track outside of Iowa Western and Wabash, or even some of those programs?
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Appleby at Wabash and Ryan McCoy as well at Wabash are two guys that are probably top 10, top 15 JUCO prospects in the country. Those guys you need to be aware of. The Henninger guy at Johnny Logan, the arm who's committed to Ole Miss, I think that's another really good one. He's a guy we're going to have up the list in a big way. And out of the Great Plains, out of Kansas, or however you want to classify that region, I'm a big fan of Hayden Minton. At Johnson County, right-handed pitcher. We're going to have him in a spot on our list that is way higher than anyone else. I think I really bought it. We saw him at the Jayhawk Showcase in back in September, and just all the way in on that. The guys that work out of our KC office as scouts agree with me. Like we're gonna juice him up a good bit.
Who are some other guys that popped up this fall at some of the showcases that you went to?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some guys who have been around that have taken big strides that are now like, instead of just tools, there's like, all right, these are the guys now. I think Sabine Sabalos from Sanjak is a guy who really stands out in that way. Everyone knows who he is. He threw 100 across the infield at PG National years ago. Like, this is not an out of nowhere JUCO guy, but there was kind of some uncertainty as to his defensive home. They tried him behind the plate for a while. There was some swing and miss, and now he's a plus glove at third base who can hit. And so now it's like, all right, this is a dude. It kind of came together in that way for him. So you love seeing that. I think Cam Collier's number one. I don't think there's ever been any question. The 17-year-old kid who reclassed twice or whatever to go to Chipola, he's one. That's who we're going to roll with. Two, I'm still struggling to figure out. I think that Appleby, like I said, has a chance to be a guy up that high. Sabine, like I said, I think Harold Cole at Sanjak is really good. I think Chris Stewart at Sanjak is really good. There's any number of guys across the country, man. Jake Madden at Northwest Florida is one of those supremely explosive arm talents that we're kind of waiting to see how it looks in terms of polish, but he's a guy whose name might blow up right here in the next few days even. So
I tell a good story about Luke Collier. He played at Triton coming out, and I was getting ready to go to Evansville, and my dad was like, do you want to go watch Triton and Logan play, because the winner's going to go to the World Series? And that was the first time I had ever seen pro scouts behind first base. They were radar gunning Lou in between innings when he on his throws to first base, and that's the first time I'd ever seen it. But that was a really good matchup with Triton. Triton was really good back in those days. Triton and Logan were going at it to see who's going to go to the World Series. But yeah, Lou's a tremendous player and great person.
Wouldn't be surprising to see that happen with Cam this year, because he also has a cannon across the infield.
Yeah. What else are you paying attention to early? Any other tournaments? I know they're rolling now, so it looks like there's a huge tournament this weekend.
Yeah, Florida kicks off in a big way right here this weekend in Auburndale. We're going to have guys there. Vinny Servino and Kyler Peterson will be there. I'm paying attention to the Zinger Bat tourney out west. It's the same weekend as ours in Panama City Beach, but it's got 5, 6, 7 of the top schools from Arizona. CSN will be there. Salt Lake will be there. That type of region. We'll have a guy there, Tyler Henninger, obviously covering that. So that's the other one that I think you got to pay close attention to. Same weekend as Panama City Beach. What a JUCO weekend that will be. But that definitely looking to see how that one shakes out, because I think you can tell some things there. That was the tournament a couple years ago where Jackson Rutledge was first like, uh-oh, guys, I found one. You know what I mean? Like, found the guy. It's that one. That was Jackson Rutledge's coming out party a couple years ago. So we're looking forward to seeing who pops there, and that's going to be a fun weekend for everybody. What
about the West Coast? I mean, I know California's kind of stuck over there by themselves, and for good reason. I mean, there's so many junior college teams in California, but what about coming out of California?
Yeah, I think, and as you know, they split it north-south, and then they take the top two from each and play a World Series type of thing. And I think it'll be kind of business as usual in NorCal. I'm expecting Sac City. I'm expecting Santa Rosa. I'm expecting Ohlone, and I'm expecting San Joaquin Delta to be the four. They seem to be the four every year. I think that Sac City is especially strong per usual. And in the South, I think Orange Coast is who we're going to go with as far as our projected SoCal winner. I think they're really good. Steve Fiorendo got a look at Mount Sac in the fall. They were pretty good. Like you said, man, there's so much JUCO in Cali, and people don't seem to know that. But it's like every 4 blocks in Orange County, there's a JUCO. And so, it's like we're trying to do a better job of being more comprehensive in our coverage in California rather than just picking the top 3 or 4. But I would expect those schools that I mentioned, Orange Coast in particular, seem to have a really, really good fall. So I'm counting on big things from them.
It's so reasonable to go to school. Their cost of credit per credit is so cheap for the California junior colleges.
They like get the knock because they can't scholarship, but like
it's still cost of education is way cheaper.
It's still like, okay, well, you're going to pay less than a 90% ride to a D1 would give you. You know what I mean? Honestly, still at the same time. So,
hey, how was the cold weather batch? You had your first episode, right?
Yeah, we kicked it back into gear after taking a several month hiatus because Brandon and I were never home. So we kicked it back into gear. We're 2 or 3 episodes into season 2 now. It's rolling well. We had Corey Kohler from Sanjak on to talk some JUCO stuff with us. We had David Lally, the pitcher from Grand Blanc, on the first episode too. Just really fun with that. I'm looking forward to
What does Corey Kohler know about cold weather?
He doesn't. But we had some parent questions ask us, like, hey, my son's a 2023, 2024. How is the COVID backup of players affecting players that young, and should they consider JUCO? And I was like, rather than me talk about it for the 19th time, we'll bring on the dude. So Corey hopped on with us, gave us some insight, and
what were his insights?
It is what it is kind of what's going on. D1s are backed up, which means D2s are backed up, which means D3s are backed up, which means JUCOs are backed up. In my calls this fall or this winter, man, like some schools brought in 4 or 5 freshmen. JUCOs brought in 4 or 5 freshmen. That's insane.
I still think it's good for college baseball overall, though. You're seeing high level talent at every level. I think it's good. Mm-hmm. I know it stinks for some kids maybe getting boxed out of some places, but the level of play at every level of college baseball is great because of it. I think eventually it'll get weeded out, but you never know. This might be the new norm for everybody. Yeah,
and there's nothing but positives to it. Like, I understand that so-and-so junior in high school really wants to go to blank D1 and this, that, and the other thing. But, like, now you're seeing, like, okay, Sanjak can't take every kid they used to take. So those kids now are going to a JUCO that's maybe a half a step below a Sanjak. And then those guys that got boxed out, it's filtering down to where there's so much more depth of ability across, like you said, all levels. And then the old adage, like, I don't care where you play, man. If you're good, we'll find you. Yeah. That's reality. And it's on display for us now. And in the age of social media, there's no hidden gems anymore. I think I'm with you, man. I think it's just good for baseball.
I asked this to Noah. Do you think McLennan and Eunice can repeat?
Yes, I do. I think Eunice is more of a sure bet. Not that there's any such thing as a sure bet, but they more or less brought back the whole damn team again. And obviously they just announced that
new
SEC level cathedral they're going to build down there.
Love it. Congrats to Jeff.
Yeah, incredible. And with McLennan, I think, it was funny. I talked to Coach Thompson last year, right after they won, or maybe not right after they won. It was in Jupiter where I saw him, and we chatted, got to finally chat. And he told me his secret. He told me his secret because they did not have a good first half to 60% of the season or whatever it was.
He was on the podcast with me, told some really good stories about their season last year.
They were not real good, and they dropped 3 or 4 to Weatherford or whatever it was. And
they had a pause for weather right in the middle of the year last year, and he kind of attributed that a little bit as they got out of rhythm because they had a weather pause right in the middle of the season.
He goes, Brian, I walked into the locker room and I said, hey, we're done losing. and then they stopped losing. I go, Coach, I'll be damned. I didn't know.
I wish
it was that
I wish I'd have
simple.
known that. I wish it was that easy. We're done losing.
Jeez, man.
I lost a lot of games in my career, so I
Good
wish I'd have
coaching.
known that.
They don't tell. We need to have a presentation at ABCA next year where it's just Mitch up there saying, "Hey, you got to let them know losing's not good. We ain't going to do it no more." So,
Oh, I love it. I love it. What? Any other storylines we need to pay attention to early?
early on, I think that the quality of these preseason tournaments, not even preseason, but early season tournaments that we already talked about, you're going to see some teams who are going to be really good start 2-10. Yeah. Just because they're going to run into 19 straight ranked teams or whatever it is, and that I think that there's going to be some. You got to be patient. There's some teams who are going to figure some things out, and in other years they'd be starting 10-2 because they'd play lesser competition to get themselves warmed up, but now they're going to go into a buzzsaw. And so I think that's an interesting point to pay attention to.
That's been an Iowa Western. That's been an Iowa Western thing. Mark's always done that. I give him a lot of credit because he's always been patient early in the year. They go play a great schedule, and he always is like, "Hey, our record may not be indicative of how good we are," and he's always done that at Iowa Western.
And Iowa Western's always then clicking by the time the state tournament runs around. And, I'm with you. So I just think, there's going to be some teams that we rank high that are probably going to start off 500 or maybe even below it, their first 10, 15 games. But that's what's it? Pressure makes diamonds or whatever. Like, I think that's kind of the mindset there. And it's something we're looking forward to monitoring.
What are some final thoughts?
JUCO baseball is as good as it's ever been. I don't think there'll be a first rounder maybe this year. I think Cam Collier's got a chance, but either way, the depth is as good as it's ever been, team wise and player wise. It's just such a fun level, and I hope that every year as we continue doing these, we bring more and more people around to that idea.
Where can people find you here? I know you guys are doing a good job of putting podcasts out and everything that you guys are doing. So where can people find you?
Yeah, you could follow me on Twitter at B_Sakowski_PG, and I would love it if you followed the podcast that we do. It's at Cold Weather Bats, all one word. That's where I'll be.
Love it. Love it. Thanks, as always, Brian.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
All right, here with Noah Sharp at thejbb.net and also on Twitter and all the other socials at _thejbb. And Noah, I can't believe it's been three times that we've been able to do this, and so it's always fun seeing everybody because it means the college season's right around the corner.
The first year we did this, I was like, wait, what is this? I mean, I've listened to the show, and now, okay, I guess I'm a reoccurring person from time to time when it comes to some college baseball stuff. So hey, stuff has grown over the last few years, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, and I say this, I think you have the hardest job of everyone that I talk to because you have to cover D1, D2, and D3 junior college, and you cover more teams than anybody. So you have to be on your game more than any, and you have a lot to cover. And I think that I give you a lot of credit for that. And it looks like things are going well for you and the JBB. It's awesome. I'm so happy for you.
It's definitely, there's a little bit of a chance. Things align to where I could take some risks on myself and some chances, and so far it seems to be paying off. Yep. It's kind of fun being able to actually focus on this a little bit more full time than, I've got an hour, I'm on my lunch break. All right, cool. Let's look at what's going on in the state of Kansas for an hour. I can okay, I can dedicate and actually look at it and not, okay, time's up. So that's fun. Yeah, the game this year is going to be from top to bottom. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, to cover, to all that.
Hey, Tyler announced they're going to D1. When does that go into effect? Does that go into effect immediately? I know that Doug Wren and I talked last summer, and he had mentioned it, and then I saw the announcement, but I wasn't sure when that was going into effect.
So my understanding is it's going into effect. I don't know when this is going out, but we have them in our top 50 for the Division One. So playing wise, it's going straight over. It was a whole deal with them and Coastal because they're the only two in that region. And then last year, because I believe it was Laredo and Angelina, I think they didn't play. And so they're like, well, these two Division threes are going to play, so let's just put them in the Division One conferences. And then they were like, well, we competed and we didn't really affect the conference at all, so let's just both jump up. And both are, I think, going to make some pretty big impacts in that first year. I mean, Tyler is, I watched them this fall, and I mean, they're always going to be good, and were good at the Division Three. And when they played the Division Ones and the Division Twos, it was always a good game. So, and same with Coastal Bend. So it's going to be really fun to see those two programs, kind of jump up a level and compete. I mean, I guess they did it last year, but I mean, now you have 3 teams that were in 2 different World Series all in one conference, which is going to make for some good baseball.
And that's similar to the Arizona junior colleges, what they did last year, too, because it seemed like there was so much mingling between the D1s and the D2s because they couldn't travel as much. It seemed like when I saw Phoenix and Enid, just seemed like they were doing the same thing, which obviously prepares those teams for their D2 schedule that they're playing. But what does that do for Division III now? You take Tyler out of there, so what does that do for Division III junior college baseball now?
I know when it was announced, there was a tweet. I can't remember. It wasn't by me, unfortunately, but it was one of the coaches up there. It's like, I think I just heard the entire Northeast cheer, like all at once. And I'm like, yeah, no, I could definitely see that. But it also opens up a big deal for the Dallas schools down here. So the Dallas D3s have always had a lot of talent, but okay, they have to play Tyler every single year, and there's only one spot to get. So, but I mean, it's opening up for all those Dallas schools, which I think is going to be a really cool thing for them. But I mean, the Northeast, I know a lot of coaches up there are kind of the pray hand emojis, like, thank you, finally they're making the jump back up.
Now McLennan and Eunice, they got a chance to repeat.
Eunice, I think they always do. Okay. I mean, they're loaded as always. McLennan. Yes, I mean, any team
losing Logan Henderson's a huge piece to them.
Yeah.
Him not being back, I know he carried a lot of the load for Mitch and those guys at McLennan, but he's done a good job there too. So, I mean, you can't count anybody out. It's just hard to repeat. It's really hard to do that.
I think the last team to do it was Chipola, and they almost did it 3 years in a row. And then, but I mean, I actually just today, when we're recording, I just released, they were the last district region preview that we released, because the last 3 are always the defending national title ones. And it's that, I mean, granted, I live here, and that's the region that got me into junior college baseball. So I guess you could say I'm a little biased, but it's this year, that region, that conference alone, I can make an argument that there's like a 1A and a 1B over there. And it depends on the day and who shows up, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to following all of that. And when do they get going? They get going here. I just saw somebody, I think in a couple weeks, some of those schools get going. I know they're starting. They start earlier than everybody, so I want to make sure we give them a shout out too, because everybody gets on the D1s start of the season. Well, we have a lot of baseball that starts way before, February 17th. So there's a lot of baseball going way before that.
Yeah, I know. At least there was 2 NAIA games yesterday. I know that, but I think the earliest I've seen is it's maybe at least 15 days. I think it's like the last week of like the 31st through like the first, whatever that weekend is, the end of the month. I haven't looked too terribly much at the schedule because we've been finalizing, our preseason players and our preseason rankings and all that. So now I'm like, okay, now let's have the fun and look at the schedule, since everyone's ranked I can where's the strength of schedule? Who's going to have but it's going to be, there's a lot of really good tournaments to start the season off in a lot of different places. And
are you going to be anywhere early?
Maybe, hopefully. I think I'm staying kind of local to the Dallas-ish area. I might try to get down to, there's one down at the Brazos Valley Bombers thing. I might try to get down for a weekend, but we'll see. We'll play it by ear, 3 kids definitely limits your travel ability when they're all under 7. So,
Hey, I love you. I love the rankings. You that made it to campus, the junior college recruiting rankings.
Yeah.
So what was eye opening with that? With some of the teams that they were able to get guys to campus, and also some bounce backs as well.
So I mean, like you said, like Logan Henderson, I believe was committed to OU, but if you follow junior college, you know that he did not make it to campus. So you have the guys that do commit early and do go, and the coaches like we got them. But then who this was, I think I came up with the idea maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, and it was just, hey, who actually makes it to campus? Because sometimes you have the guys that are, oh, I'm committed to OU, but that's just an example. And then, oh, some stuff kind of fell down through the summer. Oh, now I'm going to Central Oklahoma down the road, or I'm going to, because stuff always does end up eventually happening, unfortunately, to some people where their plans change or coachings change and they get released. And so it's like, who actually makes it there? And I think it's really cool too to see the impact. I think one of the best examples is, and I love the guys over there down over at Campbell. If you're in North Carolina,
Shout out to Coach Hare. He's right down the road. I love it. I love Coach Hare.
He's awesome. I love all those guys over there, but that's
they have
one
a great
where,
setup too. For anybody that has not seen their campus and their baseball setup, because it used to be a minor league facility with the Astros, it's a phenomenal setup, and he's a great coach. I was over there for practice last year, and he does a phenomenal job with their practice, and really does a good job of pushing those guys. He's phenomenal.
But they're probably one of the biggest prime examples to where you don't generally think of them in the last 5 or 6 years. Campbell's not a top 25 team, but this year I think they were in 2 or 3 preseason rankings, and a lot of that does have to do with the fact that they go to Arizona. North Carolina, that's one over the last few years. North Carolina baseball I've come to realize is like really, really good. And I just had no clue it was that good.
It's amazing how many good programs are. Well, you look at Wingate, they won the Division II World Series last year, and at NC State in the College World Series, and everything is close here. It's a great place for baseball. And you have Cary here, the USA Complex, where they play the Division II National Championship. There's just a lot of good things going on in North Carolina. But, you look at the College World Series last year, Mississippi State had a ton of junior college players. You can go up and down those rosters last year, the teams that made it to Omaha that had – a lot of JUCO players. Division II historically has had a ton of junior college players, and so there's a lot of players that come from junior college that make a huge impact at the 4-year level at every place that they go to.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be, for them, OSU this year is going to have, or I guess Oklahoma State, because depending on where you are, there's like 7 different OSUs. But Oklahoma State, they have a ton of guys, and they're really excited about them. You can probably go to the majority of big time. Mississippi State's a prime example. The guy that I believe won them, it was like an elimination game, Landon. Oh gosh, I'm butchering this now. But he was from, I think it was Hines.
Yes.
Just the lefty that came in, and he came in, showed up, and literally in the post-game press conference, he's like, I got my bandits. I know what I'm going to get, and it's like, yep, okay.
And I was in Enid last year for the Division II World Series, Division II Junior College World Series, and it was great baseball. And I try to stress this to everybody, go watch everybody. That's the benefit of the job that I'm in. I get a chance to watch every level of college baseball now. You are not going to see much difference from Division I on down to junior college. You really aren't now, especially with COVID, and and that's helped junior college baseball with giving people a year back through COVID. They got 2 years back, so you've got some older kids playing at the junior college level, which has been great for everybody. I hope that does not change. I know people bellyache about the roster sizes now, but I think it's good for college baseball that there's more people playing.
Yeah, and when we were putting together a couple of the rankings, we were like, where should we put this guy? And it was like, the kids can play, obviously, but it's like the joke was like, well, he is 25. So I guess that's a good spot to put him, there's obviously other reasons, but it's like, the talent. I do know there was, I guess one of them that isn't playing anymore, but there's 2 guys who their freshman year, I believe, was 17, 18, and then 18, 19 was their freshman year. Then their sophomore year was 19, 20, or no, whatever. Their sophomore year was going to be COVID. And so they got that year back, and then they transferred. but then, oh, wait, I still have another year. I'm technically a sophomore. So then they end up going back. So they're 22-year-old sophomores on the field, but I'm like, what? They've gone to a junior college, then a Division I, then back to a junior college. And I'm like, I'm sure there's more than just two that are out there, but the age is going to be good. And I think I made a joke a while back about the whole Major League Baseball and, college baseball is going to be the only thing. And I kind of made it jokingly like 6 months ago. And now I'm getting scared that that's actually going to be the case. But then again, hey, I guess that's my job and that makes it fun for me. So.
All right, so let's go Division I. Who you think is going to play for the national title in Grand Junction?
I say this every year when you ask me this. This is a loaded question because literally anything can happen. I mean, Indian Hills last year literally goes into Iowa Western, upsets them, which really that I guess if you followed it wasn't really an upset. And then they go to Wabash and take 2 or 3 from a guy who was going to be a Friday night guy at LSU and a Friday night guy at Kentucky, and they beat them. And you're like, well, this is. I mean, if you looked at the team, that wasn't.
The great
really
thing about
surprise.
baseball is you never know with baseball.
But I think Region 5. I think you have McLennan and you have Weatherford. I think Weatherford's going to be really, really good.
I saw them this fall. I saw them practice. They look good. They got some physical kids all over the field.
They're
kids
that
have been there a while too. They've got some middle guys that had been there a while that look good. They look right when you watch them practice.
Mm-hmm. I think. Excuse me. But I mean, and then Sanjak obviously is probably the top dog in Region 14 down there. So, I mean, they're generally up there. I think Tyler, I mean, like we said, anything can happen any given weekend. So you could say Tyler. I mean, that would probably be one of the crazy stories. Hey, we just won the Division III. Now we jump to Division I, and then we go, which I know Doug would be very happy about. But I mean, the Midwest, you have all the powers of Wabash and Iowa Western. So like probably one of those two are going to come out of there. Florida is going to be a dog fight to the end, as it always is. But Arizona is, I mean, you can literally go anywhere and it's like, I couldn't tell you who. I mean, there's teams I'd like to see play, but then, you get there and you're like, well.
Any mid-semester transfers for those guys that you've heard of? Have you heard much? I haven't heard of as much this year with guys leaving. You usually see it on Twitter where guys leave after fall ball. I have not seen as much of that this year with some bigger names going to back to junior college.
There hasn't been, I guess, as many big ones. Usually there's that one or two. They're like, well, I know I'm not going to play, or I just want to get drafted, so let's go somewhere. I mean, I guess the biggest one is Cam Collier. I guess he reclassified and bumped up, and
which is two classes. He dumped two like he's skipping 2 years to go,
mm-hmm.
which is awesome.
And then, I mean, there's a guy. Gosh, I was just talking to them the other day. Tom Delardy, I think is how you say his name. He's going in at Sanjak. Johnson County's got a couple guys coming in. They actually have a guy that came back who was an All-American for them last year, and something just went down, and he's like, hey, I'm coming back. I'm trying to think. I know McLennan's got one or two, but it's not like most years where you're like, oh, there's like these 3 or 4 big-time arms that are leaving and coming in, and most of the rosters, from what I've seen, have stayed pretty, what they were in the fall and maybe added 1 or 2. But I know talking with a lot of coaches, they're like, I can take an arm that's 97, 98, but like I kind of like what I got, and I don't really, but then every coach would like an arm that's 97, 98.
I think the draft has a little bit to do with that now too, with cutting the rounds down. There's not as many opportunities to be drafted now with everything, and so I think that has a little bit to do with it too, where you're not seeing it as much.
Yeah, and I think it's just like I said, this year's going to be a lot of fun. I think out west probably you're going to have some teams that are going to surprise some people and maybe be your not traditional teams to make it out there, like McCook up in, I think it's Nebraska. I think they have a chance to finally kind of break the stigma of that region and not being necessarily super successful in the postseason. Granted, you still have to get past the CSNs, the Southern Idahos, the Salt Lakes, Central Arizona. You still have to get past them, but I don't think it's going to be as we have there's an easy W just because they're coming out of the Colorado Nebraska region. Like
That's a sneaky good league because there's not as many 4-year schools out in that area. So that junior college conference is really good with Southern Nevada and those schools because there's not as many options for kids to go to 4-year schools out there.
yeah, then I mean, there's a couple schools where it's like for this year it was like a lot easier when you're looking at like teams to be ranked. The top 25 always is like, oh gosh, I'm like sweating. But then there's like 15 teams where I'm like, okay, from 50 to like 35, this is the easy part where I know where I'm going to put them. I know what I want to do. So there's like Paris is a prime example. I think what Clay's building over there has been awesome to watch over the last 4 years or 5 years, however long he's been there. But it's kind of, you didn't really think of Paris, and now they're generally really super competitive up in that region, 14 north or east or I don't. Texas is weird when they say the north, east, west. I don't know.
This is the golden era for college coaching at every level. We have so many great coaches at every level of college baseball now, and that's why you're seeing from top to bottom there's not a lot of drop off from the levels because there's so many good coaches at every level that we have now. It's great.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the Division I, every division you're going to have. I couldn't tell you who I'd want to be my pick because there's probably about a dozen that I want to see play out. And, let's make it a 64 team tournament and bring the winner of California over and have some real fun in Colorado. That's my
all right. What about Division II outside of Eunice? I know Jeff's going to have them ready, but who you got else in Division II? And Western Oklahoma had a good team last year. I liked watching them. Out this way, we had Patrick Henry was really good. Their Friday guy was very good. Was good baseball from top to bottom in that field.
Yeah, I think the Division II. I probably think there's a little bit more, I guess. Diversity, I guess. I think this year you don't like. Obviously, you have LSU Eunice, and then you have Pearl River, but then in Western Oklahoma State, I believe is going to be good because they're always good. But I think there's a little bit more diversity in the teams that are going to be, good versus the traditional ones. Like I think a prime example is up in the cold weather area in Minnesota, North Dakota, that area. Usually Bismarck State is kind of not your traditional team you think of, and you think of Miles. Well, Miles is having a down year, and Bismarck State's having a potentially really, really good year, and they're returning everybody. So, you have a team full of 20 sophomores that all played last year and a team of, so like that's kind of a flip. And then you've got 2 teams dropping from Division I to Division II in Florida, which kind of shakes that whole side of the thing up. So I think they're going to be really, really good in Florida State, Jacksonville, and then Palm Beach. One I'm really excited to see, and it's not just because I'm really good friends with the guy over there, but I think Parkland with the change of the head coach and then going into a much younger head coach than what their old head coach was.
I'm interested to see how that plays out because you got a first time head coach trying to and young and but he's got a lot of history too. He's in the military for a while, and so I mean he's got a lot of history. He's gonna be all right.
It was funny when he called me. He was kind of teasing it for like a month. I was like, I don't get what you're. He was like, oh, now looking back, I totally get what you were saying. But he's, it's funny. We were joking. He's like, dude, a year ago I was pitching at Louisville, and now I'm a head coach. But I mean, he's. I'm really excited to see what he can do over there. I was actually talking to him last night, and he's like super excited. He's like, it's a little different than what I thought, but I'm here for it. I'm ready. Let's do it. What else? I think. One team that I think no one's probably really going to talk about, but I think they kind of showed that they're here to play is Rich Mountain in Arkansas. I think this is their second year, and they almost made it.
Coach Spiner came from the high school side. He was on the podcast with me last summer because he was our Dave Kylitz Ethics Award winner in 2021, and I have a lot of respect for what he did at the high school level, and he's taken a lot of that, and he wasn't sure, but, it's just winners win, and, Lance has done such a good job wherever he's been at, and so it's probably not surprising that they're having success right away.
But I think
you got Sean Doty, too, over on this side of the world. Longtime Division I guy, started the program there in Charlotte, so you've got some intriguing storylines here at the D2 level.
I think Patrick Henry's going to be a good one. They've got a lot of their guys back.
They played right too. I loved watching them play last year in Enid. They do a good job. They play hard. They pitch, play defense. They execute offensively. They do some hitting and running. So it's fun watching a team like that.
Another one out in your direction is Camp. I think they're going to be. Dan's a really good guy over there, and he really likes his team. I know they've kind of, not been your traditional team in North Carolina, I guess, because you got the Catawbas or Catawabas or however you say
Catawba.
it. And then you've got, all that, but I think they're going to be really good. Lackawanna is going to be really good. I was talking to them. I think they have like 6 or 7 guys that run like sub 6'8"
Mike
or something.
does a good job too.
They just fly around. But I think the Division II, like I said, I think it's going to be a little bit more diverse than your usual teams that kind of come out and you're like, well, obviously, you can put your hand and pick out the 6 and you're like, these are going to be the same 6 every year. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. And I think it's going to be, the Arizona schools are always going to be good, but so like for people that don't know, the Arizona, and they've done this for, I don't know how long they've played like this, but their Division IIs and their Division Is are all in the same conference, but they play 2 series against the Division IIs and 1 series against the Division Is. But that means you're playing any given year, Central Arizona, that's usually a top 10, South Mountain, Pima, Arizona, you're playing 5 or 6 Division I schools that are top 25 and you kind of get beat up on and your record's 26-32, but okay, 32 of your losses are to teams that are nationally ranked. So and then you go to Enid, and I think Mesa a couple years ago, they split with Central and they both played for a national title, but Mesa had a losing record going in or something weird like that. And so it's always going to be fun to see what comes out of Arizona. Phoenix, I think, is going to be pretty good. Again, you can kind of coin flip Arizona. You're going to get a lot of good out of that. I think Mott over in Michigan, their guy, I love their coach. He's awesome. I think he's got, and I'll pump him up here, but he's one. I put it out at the beginning of the year, but he's a guy who, because, the recruiting for junior colleges, it's always kind of different, but his email he sends out to all the coaches at the beginning of the year might be my favorite thing I've ever seen. And I've shared it a couple of times, but here's where we are. This is where we're starting. Here's a spreadsheet of our guys. This is our schedule of how we're going to go about things. I'll send you all updates at these points. And then it's all here's their contact information, their design, what degree they're wanting to go to, their GP, it's all right. Awesome. There, exactly how he's going to go through, when he's going to update you. And I'm like that. I literally have no questions I need to ask other than this. And then, hey, if I have a question, hey, I can just call him up. Hey, I read this. Is this? And, obviously you can talk and feel, but his is one where, I've said it a couple of times, and I think after I tweeted it, he texted me. He's like, dude, I got 37 people asking to see what I did. I was like, I was just saying that I liked it. And so, but I think that's one of the really cool things. Like you said, the college baseball world with coaches is kind of the talent all over, and people are coming up. And then Mott's one you never think of, because I never heard of Mott, Michigan before I started doing this. So, yeah.
All right. What about Division III? It's probably gonna be wide open now that Tyler's not in there.
Yeah. So people, I guess Chris, the other guy that I do a lot of the stuff with, and even Brian over at Perfect Game, they give me crap because I'm once I pay way too much attention to the Division III, because I'm well, the talent's there. No one ever oh, you're at a Division III. Oh, you're at a Division III junior college. What is, that's a thing. And then I'm dude, don't. They will come to you and they will take your peanut butter sandwich and then throw a 96-mile-an-hour fastball at your face and then they kick you. Don't sleep on them. But I think, wow, I'm if anyone knows me, I butcher every single name I ever say. So there's that. But Gloucester is going to be really good as always.
Hey, you got that right, Gloucester. That's right.
That I probably will say it wrong tomorrow. So.
It's New Jersey. New Jersey. You got to add a New Jersey accent in with it, Gloucester.
I should have one. My mom's side of the family is from New Jersey. They actually grew up in was it Mercer County? So when I started doing this, I saw like Mercer County. My mom's like, hey, that's where your uncles went. And I go, oh, cool. But they're going to be good. Herc's going to be really good. Niagara, I mean, they finished the runner up last year is going to be really good. But then after that, it's kind of like, I think it's kind of wide open. Caldwell Tech, I think that's in North Carolina or somewhere over in that. They're going to be really, really good. I think that's a team that you don't usually think of. Like Rockingham's really good, but then Caldwell Tech, I think is kind of like, I think that's going to be a very interesting to see who comes out of there. And then, I mean, you kind of have all the Texas schools that are going to be really good with the Brookhavens, the Eastfields. You got Owens in Ohio, I think. But then, I mean, after that, it kind of all those Minnesota schools, which that was one thing. People kind of diss Minnesota. They don't think of baseball when they think of the state of Minnesota.
There's a lot of kids that play baseball in the Twin Cities. Like that, people don't realize. It's like Omaha. There's so many kids that play baseball in Omaha, Nebraska, but there's so many kids that play baseball in the Twin Cities, and Legion baseball is still strong in that area. So there's going to be some kids that fall through the cracks up in that area that end up going to junior college to start because they don't have a ton of opportunities. It's really good baseball in the Twin Cities for high school and Legion baseball.
Yeah. And and this is one thing, I guess the plus of Tyler not being there this year is that, I think this is the best thing. They need, I think, implement this at the other two levels. But with the Division III, there is 2 at-large bids. So, you have your 6 winners, but okay, let's make it simpler and add a 2 at-large bid. So, the next best 2. So for years now.
And that's how Tyler got in last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got eliminated. Well, they didn't. They got beat 2 out of 3 right before the
by
World
Coastal
Series.
Bend.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they got an at-large bid.
Mm-hmm. And usually the history with the at-large bid, I think Tyler got it and then won it, and they were won all year. A couple years ago, Cumberland's won it, and they were an at-large bid. So, I think adding that at-large bid, like no one, say you add it to Division I level, you have that where, okay, no one would ever argue, okay, Wabash didn't make it this year. Let's add them in there just because we need 2 or 3 more teams. No one would argue that, or add another team from Florida coming up or another team from, but I think
that's the wildest bracket ever. The Division I Junior College World Series bracket is the wildest bracket I've ever seen.
It's the best thing ever. It is.
It's a wild bracket.
It's amazing. And it always rotates on who plays who, and they don't seed it, which is like the greatest thing ever. It's just, hey, this year the West is playing the Southwest, and that's that's what's going to be. So I think, with Tyler out, to go back to it, you're adding a team for years, or taking out a team like, oh, Tyler lost in the regional. Yeah, Tyler, throw them at the at-large bid. Well, now you're going to have possibly 2 teams from, the craziness that is, I think it's Region 19 or Region 20, where you have, the Cumberlands, the Gloucesters, whatever it is, Niagara, Northern Essex, all of them all play for one spot. And now you have another 2. And I think Minnesota has a legit chance to probably get 2 spots out. Same with North Carolina with Caldwell and Rockingham, Joliet, Berg. I mean, you can go down the list. And I think it's, do I do a little too much ranking the top 25 Division III schools? Probably.
No, I don't know.
But
somebody's got to do it. I mean,
it's fun.
Somebody's got to do it. I'm glad you're taking the torch for it because somebody needs to do it.
It definitely, I don't know. It's the Division III ones are always funner because it's, if you never talk to one of those coaches, I mean, if you never talk to a junior college coach, it's like, hey, they really care about, the kids and their level, but then, hey, like there's talent here. And then you kind of trickle down to the Division III ones and you're like, well, they will go to bat for you. They will, they're not going to. All coaches are awesome, but the Division III ones, I think, at times, because at the level where you're never given anything, they're at the bottom of that barrel. And I mean, there's a couple of schools. I mean, Hurt, for an example, like you wouldn't look at they have one of the top, I think, 5 pitchers in all of junior college baseball, and he's at a Division III school. and committed to Louisville, and the kid can absolutely chuck it, and he would, so the diss on the Division III level of junior college baseball is just like, go see it. Like you said, like you go to any level of college baseball is going to be absolutely amazing. And it's this year's, I mean, I think I've said this every year, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch it all unfold and the chaos that ensues in different places.
All right. Where can people find you?
So most of the time I'm on Twitter. So there's my personal one, which is _Noah_Sharp. And then there's obviously the JBB Twitter, which is _the JBB. But I mean, Ryan, that's how we met. I mean, you DM'd me about some stuff, and now we've, I guess, been friends for like 3 or 4 years now. But like, I try to respond to as many DMs as I can. I mean,
I have so much respect for our sports writers in all the spaces, because you guys put so much work into this, and you're knowledgeable and you're fun to talk to. So this is always a great time of the year for me, because I get to talk to everybody, and you guys are fun to talk to too.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, my view on it is I think at first it was not accepted as much, but I'm like, hey, in the end, baseball's a game. Games are fun. So why do I need to cover it super, super serious? Yeah. I can have fun. I can bring my personality in, and, I mean, I'm just a guy that stumbled upon something by accident and having fun with it. And hey, 5 years later, here it is. So like, I laugh at some of the conversations I had. Like, there's some coaches I never would have thought I would have ever had a chance to have a conversation with. And now it's like, oh, hey, cool. Yeah. You want me to come down? I'll come down and come say, hey, like.
Well, I think I'm going to be back in Enid again. So I haven't talked, JR and I have to sit down and talk about the championship schedule, but maybe you can make the drive up to Enid. We can share a hotel room.
Yeah. I mean, that's not too far. My thing that I'm upset with is when I started all this a couple of years ago, I was in Edmond, Oklahoma. So I'm smack in the middle of Oklahoma. I was like, there's no good junior college baseball in Oklahoma. Like, I guess there's Eastern Oklahoma. And then the next year I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. What? Oh no, good. I was an hour away from Enid, and I just decided not to go. Oh gosh, oops. That was a big oops on my part. But yeah.
All right. Well, good luck with the start of the year. So hit me up if you need anything.
Will do, Ryan. Will do.